Good evening. I'm saying good evening after much thinking. Okay, so what we finished yesterday was the 13 practices which we should refrain. That means killing, stealing, and so on. 13. Now the next 1.5 verses says, revering the worthy and being loving, but giving respect, not inflicting harm, we finished. So giving respectfully, revering the worthy and being loving are in brief practices of Dharma. So these are the 3 things. In addition to the 13 practices which you should refrain from, you should engage in these 3 practices. That is respectfully, giving respectfully, which means practice of giving. So giving means giving basically 3 things. Giving material goods, giving teaching, especially Dharma teaching, and giving fearlessness. If somebody's life is threatened or an insect is drowning, something like that, then you should save their life. So that is called giving fearlessness. If somebody has fear because of lack of knowledge, lack of misunderstanding, then console them, encourage them, support them, so that their fear goes away. Many of us suffer from fear, that this will happen to me, that will happen to me, and many a times we suffer unnecessarily. So it's important to support people who are in need. Okay? It's very important, because on the one hand there are like natural disasters, on the other our mind is very fragile, so we suffer a lot. So that's why it is important to understand the reality, the way things are, the teaching of the Buddha. So that will help you. This reminds me a verse from Uchthome Sangpo's 37 Bodhisattva practices, where he says that many of these sufferings that we encounter are similar to sufferings that we experience when we get a dream of death of one's child. In the dream, if you dreamt that your child died, you will suffer. While dreaming, you will cry, you will suffer. Because you are sleeping, you are not awake. But when you wake up, they will say, oh, thank God, this is just a dream. And I used to have that. When I was a student, I used to have nightmares about exam, I get a dream that I terribly failed in mathematics or whatever, you see. And there was this question paper, I was unable to read anything, None of the questions are clear to me, I get very scared. Then when I wake up, thank God, it's just a dream, See, now you can understand this so nicely. Just as when we are sleeping, we suffer. When you get a dream of death of your relatives, friends, and so on, you suffer because you are dreaming, you are not awake. Similarly, right now we are suffering because we are not awake. We are sleeping in ignorance. When somebody who is waking up, just like the Buddha, fully awakened, he doesn't suffer. All kinds of experiences he sees, but he doesn't suffer. You see? He doesn't suffer. When one of my relatives and friends suffer or dies, I get a lot of sadness, I suffer, But when someone else dies, I don't suffer. Why? Day to day we hear news of, hundreds of people dying in different parts of the world. We don't suffer. Why? One, because we don't have love, so we don't have much concern and sense of responsibility towards others. Another, it is not directly related to your self-grasping, you see. So in the case of the Buddha, his love and affection is to everybody, and he sees people dying, but he's able to understand this is part of the deal. Nothing comes value-free. This is part of the deal. So he will not be shocked, surprised by those things. So in all fluctuations, in all events, during all turbulences, Buddha is able to maintain the calmness of mind. That is what we need. The purpose of medicine is to heal you when you are sick. When you are healthy, you don't need medicine. Similarly, when you are mentally disturbed due to negative emotions or some upheavals or some misfortunes, calamities, at that time you should not be shaken. It's very important, because very on and off we see people suffering, because of death of somebody, because somebody's relatives and friends are sick, Then people get nervous, run around, do all kind of things. But that's not much use. What is important is you do whatever best you can do that. Then remain calm. Because simply your crying is not going to help, you see. That's important. That's right. While we live together, be nice, live nicely, live harmoniously, help each other. But when somebody goes to a different place or somebody dies, then okay, bye, take care. You have nothing to worry. But we don't do this. When we are living together, we are not so nice to each other. When somebody dies, then you shed your crocodile tear. That's why all this Buddha's teaching, in simple language, all this Buddha's teaching, they are saying that don't lead a stupid life. That's what Buddha is saying. Don't lead a confused life, don't lead a stupid life. Do those things which is necessary, which is important, which is useful. Don't do those things which is not useful, not necessary, like crying and doing nothing is useless. And all these useless things, we end up doing all these useless things because we are ignorant. So therefore, according to the Buddha's teaching, ignorance is source of all problems and difficulties. Now in the case of our regular daily life, and maybe to some extent in the case of practice of Dharma, I would even go further and say, yes, ignorance is source of all problems and difficulties, but much more, I cannot say dangerous, but inaction is worse than ignorance sometimes. Inaction. Because most of us, although we say, I don't know Dharma, I have nothing much to practice, but we, honestly speaking, we know a lot. Not necessarily the complicated technical terms, but all of us know that I should be doing this, I should not be doing this, I should be eating this, I should not be eating this, I should be going there, I should not be going there. We all know this. Despite that knowledge, we go in the wrong place. Despite that knowledge, we eat the wrong food. Despite that knowledge, we get angry, you see. So it's not so much about ignorance on this level, it's inaction. You don't practice. You know, but you don't practice. That's the problem. And for the development and progress of a society, knowledge is important, education is important, but what is even more probably important is action. That, for example, in the Tibetan community, I see it very clearly that we are not active enough. There's not much action, little more talking, less action. So these Buddhist teachings, they are saying, let us walk the talk. Let us walk the talk. So it's by doing. In our own personal case, we do a lot of things for ourselves. We are quite active comparatively. But when it comes to the well-being of other people, development of the community, development of the society, maintaining cleanliness and so forth, we don't care. So we need like big social awakening. And I give you one example, very interesting example. Don't just follow the same habit, but use your human intelligence and do something that's really useful. I'll give you a very concrete example which you will easily understand. Like for example, with this library, we have constructed this small 8 stupas, and then we have a lot of holy scriptures inside. Because of that, many people go around, Kora, circumambulating. So that's the traditional way, which is good. But if while doing all those great Koras, maybe dozens of people going around, then there is a big dog shit right on the footpath. Imagine, you see this, nobody will move it. Actually, if you are clever enough, moving those darts is definitely a virtuous practice, probably better than Kora. First of all, you are cleaning this area, which is very holy. Secondly, many people don't like to see their dog shit. But what people will normally do is, dog shit. So that's the problem, you see. It's not so much ignorance, inaction. That's why I'm saying, you see. And I used to encourage some students who used to come to study with me long time back. I used to tell them, okay, now you had studied with me for a long time, so don't become lazy. I had to tell this. Sometimes in the name of Dharma practice, people become lazy. They learn something, they do a little bit prayer, sit quiet, which is good, not harming other, but it's not so productive. And that prayer also like half sleeping, whatever. So it's really important to show to other people that your mind is really like awake and you are concerned about other people's well-being. Demonstrate that by doing things. So it's a very, very unhealthy habit to think, cleaning, there's somebody who will do the cleaning. I can't do this kind of attitude. Is very bad attitude. You see. Okay? So we need a social kind of awakening, kind of spiritual revolution. Sometimes His Holiness uses the word spiritual revolution. Okay? We need to prove that we are practicing, we are doing it, by doing. So one of the ways of doing that is giving respectfully. That means giving food and other material things for those who are in need. There are many who are in need, and you will be surprised to see that many of the things which is lying in your house and not so useful for you, those things may be in great need for many other people. So occasionally it will be a good habit and good practice to, while cleaning your house, you take all those parts out and give it to those people who are in need to start with. If you are unable to give, great many things, but at least to start with. As a process of cleaning your house, you do that. It will make your house cleaner and it will also benefit many other people. But we normally don't do that, you see. And there may be a particular article we may not be using that for the last 10, 15 years, but still because of our grasping and craving, we might, I might need it one day, I might need it. I have that experience. I don't have any spiritual experience or realization, but I have, like you, have those kind of experiences, So you hoard so many things, which is only headache, you see. So start giving those things. One of the great mind training teacher, he was also like us, very spendthrift, very tight-fisted in the beginning. And it is said that he was so tight-fisted that he cannot give anything to anybody. So he realized that, and then he said, I must do something. But he could not give anything to others. So he started taking something from the right hand, giving it to the left hand. Then pick up something from the left hand and give it to the right hand. Mentally training while doing that. Then gradually, not only he was able to give, but he became a great practitioner, teacher. So we need to do things. As I already said, inaction is the problem. We need to do those things. So sometimes in many other developed countries, They may not talk about Buddhism, they may not talk about love, they may not talk about compassion, but they are very good in practicing many things, you see. So it has to become a part of your life, part of your habit. In the Tibetan community, we really need to have those habits of going around and helping people, those kind of things, not just sitting there and doing prayer all the time. Prayer you can do. But prayer and religious teachings and prayers, these are like charging the battery before you go into darkness. So if you don't, the purpose of charging the battery is to use that light when you go into darkness. But if you don't use it, only charge and charge. What is the use? So sometimes we are like that, We seem to be, charging all the time, receiving some teaching, doing some mantra, but nothing outside. So it's really important to learn even from Christian communities. They do many social services. Hospitals for lepers, hospitals for orphans. Many good activities are there. So Buddhists, we must be active, We can probably organize some small group to start with. Start a group and then say, okay, we can clean this area, that area, whatever, It's a kind of pastime, and also, just sitting there is not good for your health also. A little bit active, go out and do some cleaning. Then this will become an example for many others to follow suit. So I think that is really, really important. Otherwise, we'll keep on reading precious Garland, nothing happening, you see. So practice of giving material things to those who are in need. And then second is giving Dharma teaching. Now Dharma teaching does not mean that you need to sit on a slightly higher throne, but it basically means sharing your knowledge. For those people who have less knowledge, who wants to learn English, help them if your English is better. If they want to learn Dharma, help them. If they want to Tibetan, help them, you see. It's one of the best gifts. Out of the many practices of giving, the best giving is giving education, giving Dharma, giving knowledge, and then giving fearlessness. So that's the meaning of respectfully, giving respectfully. And then revering the worthy. That means great teachers like abbots of monastery, or those who have higher qualities than you. Likewise, there may be many others who are worthy of respect. Show respect to them. By bowing to them, by respecting them, you are not going to lose anything. It will only help create a trend in the society that good people are respected. If good people, compassionate people, loving people, if they are respected, then there is chance that the society will flourish, society will prosper. But if there's no respect to the educated, there's no respect to the compassionate, there's no respect to the loving people, but respect only those people who are wealthy and have money, then very soon you will go into problems, difficulties. Okay? And then, and being loving kindness, being loving, etc. So being loving kindness, or here it is basically talking about the four immeasurable practices: infinite love, infinite compassion, infinite joy, infinite equanimity. Okay? So loving kindness here basically means wishing that other sentient beings meet with happiness. Compassion means wishing that other sentient beings are without suffering. Okay? One is more affirming, one is more negating. So compassion says, how nice if all sentient beings all sentient beings are free from suffering. Loving kindness says, how nice if all sentient beings meet with happiness. And infinite joy says, how nice if all sentient beings, those sentient beings who are without suffering, and who have the joy, may they stay like that. We do this prayer, may all sentient beings meet with happiness and the cause of happiness. That's talking about loving kindness. May all sentient beings be without suffering and without the causes of suffering. That's generating immeasurable compassion. May all sentient beings never separated from their joy which is without suffering. That's talking about infinite joy. May I be able to abide in a state of equanimity where I do not have a feeling of too closeness to some and too distantness to others. Because right now we have, for some people to whom we call as brothers, sisters, relatives, friends, we have so much close feeling, oh, my brother, my sister. And when your brother or sister has a problem, you also get a problem, you cry, you yell, you shout, as I said earlier, you see. So much grasping, so much clinging. And then for others, oh, this is my enemy, it's good if he dies, good if she dies, kind of attitude, really. And then there's a third section, the neutral group, where you have no sensitivity, no feeling. I don't care whether he's happy, not happy, it's not my business kind of attitude, you see. When we engage in Mahayana practice, especially when we engage in developing bodhicitta, we are talking about how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's your prayer. Now, in order to develop such a mind, first there should be equanimity towards all sentient beings. And I actually told many people to do a beautiful drawing here, beautiful painting here. Like if we want to plant something, grow something, first we need to level the ground. If the ground is uneven, then whatever you plant, it may not be very stable, you see. So first you should level the ground. So just like leveling the ground, for cultivating bodhicitta also we have to level our mind and develop equanimity so that you don't have too much grasping to some and too much feeling of hatred and distantness to others. Because with the reason that this person who I call my brother, sister, to whom I have so much obsession today, may be my sworn enemy in the past many lives. Very possible. The so-called my enemy today, which I hate, which I dislike, may be my brother, father, mother, sister, and so forth. Number one. Number two, even those who you call your close friend, it's not necessary they will remain your close friend forever. The person who you call as my very, very beloved friend today, based on mere usage of a word, they might get so angry, so upset, that tomorrow they might become your sworn enemy. So there is no certainty with friendship and enemy. There is no certainty. This uncertainty of changes of friend to enemy, enemy to friend is just like the summer cloud. Unreliable, you see. So it's not, conventional. Of course, I'm not saying that you should not make any identification. We all need some kind of identification, You need identification, identity card. In addition to that, we need identity card, passport, all these things you need. So similarly, everybody has an identity. So he's my brother. There's no problem with that. But what I'm saying is, developing too much grasping and craving to anybody is not good. Not healthy, not suitable, not useful. And developing too much feeling of disliking, distantness is not good. That's not good. So ordinarily, when we dislike somebody, say one's own enemy, then we have this tendency to say, oh, my enemy. Immediately rejection. Get lost. That's what we actually say when we get angry. I have nothing to do with you, get lost. Even if you don't say that, you have this feeling of distantness. I don't care. I wish this person never come near to me. Total rejection. If you have that kind of total rejection, you are violating the bodhisattva vow. The very foundation of bodhicitta is shaken. Because when you are cultivating bodhicitta, you said, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. You did not say, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings except my enemy. You didn't say that. Rwa. Like for example, if somebody is a monk and then he loses monk, then they say, oh, he used to be a monk, he's disrobed, kind of a little bit disliking, people say like that. But with regard to higher vows like bodhisattva vows, tantric vows, how many of us receive this? And nobody cares the precepts. We're violating them, so we need to be a little bit careful about those things. Okay? And at the end of the day, it will be you who will lose peace of mind if you develop this inequality in the mind. Okay? So, okay, this person is my friend, my relative, yes. This is a karmic consequence. So I may have to repay some kindness, of what he or she has done before, whatever, So, and then also to keep with the ordinary worldly convention, you be nice, that's fine. Look after them, be very nice, be very good brother, very, very good sister, that's fine. But grasping, getting obsessed with that is not good. So similarly, those people who, engage in wrongdoings against you, you have every reason to, fight against their wrongdoing. But for the person, you should not think that I have nothing to do with this person. I wish this person go to hell. That kind of attitude is really not good. Okay? So, whether it's friend or your enemy, it is dependent on the situation, you see. There's no certainty. There's no certainty. Like my own personal experience is, like for example, now for when we don't have proper understanding, then we might not only develop ill will towards the Chinese leaders, but even to the Chinese we might think, oh, these Chinese are so bad, kind of attitude, you see. So instead of just making such an assumption that all Chinese are bad or things like that, you talk to some Chinese people. Make friendship with them. They're exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. There are many good Chinese people, things like that. You see? So that changes your whole perspective, how to deal with people. So it's important to accept the fact and understand the reality. So once you are able to develop that equanimity, based on the fact that all sentient beings are same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, same. That's the most important criteria for your practice of equanimity. So in this way, when you have developed this equanimity within yourself, then there is possibility for you to develop loving kindness, because then all sentient beings will become very close to your heart. Before you didn't have that, enemy, oh. Now you have this realization, oh, they are all same, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering, but still having a lot of suffering, not getting happiness enough. So they will appear closer to your heart. I mean, your mind is the one that really plays the magic, When you like somebody, his face also looks nicer to you. I mean, the same person, same face, his face doesn't change every day like this, Today round, tomorrow oval, this triangular, something. Doesn't change like that. But when you like somebody, his face also becomes closer to you. I've seen many mothers whose child may not be that beautiful, that handsome. And in some cases, forgive me, I'm saying this as an example. So in some cases, the child may be like having a lopsided head and, not so nice, But still for the mother, she is all praise for that child. My child did this, my child this, So beautiful to the mother, because she has that love. So when you have that love, everybody looks nice. Everybody looks attractive. Everybody looks wonderful. But when you dislike, then, oh, this person, the way he's looking towards me, not so good. Oh, kind of. You see? So it's basically in the mind, not so much in the object, how you see things. So loving kindness will come. So leveling now if you want to paint like this, you level the ground, nice ground, then plant the seed of loving kindness. Then moisten it with compassion. Then the beautiful sprout of bodhicitta will grow. So this is a beautiful drawing that you can make. Okay? So therefore, loving kindness, bodhicitta, these are the main causes for cultivation of bodhicitta. And then he summarizes what he has already explained. Having explained, basically up till now he explained the 16 qualities that is needed for actualizing the higher status, like the rebirth as a human being. And then he summarizes that point by saying, in brief practices of Dharma. So for actualize, if you want to actualize a good human rebirth or the higher status, then you must undertake these 16 practices. Refraining from the 13 and engaging in the 3 practices as we already explained. So these are the 16 causes. If you, in the future, right now you've already obtained human life, but in the future, if you want to obtain good, human life, then undertake these 16 practices. Okay? Then in the subsequent verses he is saying that these kind of teachings are found only in Buddhism and it's not there in other teachings. And first he is saying that as far as your engaging in a spiritual practice is concerned, it is important right from the beginning to analyze and judge carefully so that you do not go in the wrong path. Do not travel in the wrong path. Because if you travel in the wrong path, it will harm you and it will harm others. And we have many cases in today's life. There are many so-called who are engaging in certain kind of religious practices, but harming themselves and harming others. We can see that. Okay. So in the verse number 11 he says, from merely mortifying one's body, Dharma arises not, as it neither ends our, what did you say? Malice? Huh? Malice. No, malice. Malice for others, harmful intention. I don't like this word. Harmful intention for others, nor has any benefit for them. That means there are religious practices where they see self-mortification as a very important practice. In ancient times, there were practices where people were encouraged to jump from a higher place on a trident. Jump on a trident and pierce your body and get yourself killed, go directly into heaven. You see, there are many practices like that. Even today there are practices in different areas. In remote areas there are practices like that. I don't want to name, there are practices like that, which is neither good for you nor good for others. Just self-mortification is not good enough for you to get any benefit. Right? Because it neither ends our harmful intention for others, nor has any benefit for them. So according to the Buddhist teaching, merely undergoing physical hardship is not necessarily the path for nirvana and enlightenment, or starving yourself, or burning your fingers as a butter lamp, things like that. Just by doing that, if it is influenced by some other motivation, maybe, But just by self-mortification, it will not lead to achieving higher states of rebirth and enlightenment. Because this kind of activities does not avoid harming others and does not benefit others. And oneself is therefore, by afflicting oneself, one is actually following a path which will lead to negative state of existence. And then the next verse is identifying those people who go into such a wrong path. Being disrespectful to the wide path of Dharma that teaches generosity, discipline and patience, and by abusing our body, one strays from the path to follow the trails of animals. So that means, if you do not show respectful to the great teaching, the extensive teaching on Dharma that, as you have studied in Buddhism, which teaches practice of generosity, discipline and patience, because these practices are useful for you, beneficial others. So if you don't do these practices, but instead abuse your body, mortify your body, then you are straying from the path, you are going into the wrong path. Then you are like those animals that has lost their path and lost into a thick jungle. Then it's really like ending up in a jungle where there are trees which is infested with snakes, things like that. So it will harm you. For example, if you get your path lost and end up in a jungle and stay underneath a tree which is infested with snakes and other poisonous animals, you are in great danger. So similarly, you should make sure that you do not get strayed like these animals that get lost in the thick jungle. That's pretty easy, not so difficult. So I think I've explained the verse 13 also. With a body like a tree entwined by venomous beasts of delusions, beings enter the dreadful remoteness of samsara and remain in the boundless expanse of very long. So just like any somebody that is lost in the jungle and then surrounded by poisonous snakes and so forth. So similarly, if you go into the wrong spiritual path, then the poisonous snake-like destructive emotions, negative emotions will kill you. So there is the meaning. Okay. And moreover, if you engage in many of these wrongdoings, then you will have to experience the fruit. There is no cheating of the karma. There is no escape from the infallibility of law of karma. This is explained in the next verse. For example, if you engage in killing, through killing one's life will be shortened. By entertaining malice, you receive manifold harms. Due to stealing, you will be short of wealth. I explained this yesterday. By committing adultery, you will have enemies. By telling lies, you will be discredited. Through divisive speech, you will lose friends. Due to harsh words, you will hear the unpleasant. Indulging in senseless talk, your speech will become unreliable. Covetousness destroys mind's aspirations. Harmful thoughts induce fear. False views lead to destructive thoughts. Consuming of liquor confuses our mind. I've already explained all those, so that's not so difficult. Rua? Due to not giving, one becomes poor. Through wrong livelihood, you will be deceived. From arrogance comes bad lineage. Due to jealousy, you will have meager presence. Due to anger, you will have bad complexion. See? See, you can learn so much from Buddhism, you see. So if you smile and be happy and laugh, then you don't have to buy all these cosmetics, You don't have to buy all this expensive cosmetics, you see. So even if you buy all this expensive jewelry and cosmetics, and I always like show this by through demonstration. You have golden earrings dangling, the nice cosmetics, eyebrows and whatever, everything. And after all this makeup, then you get angry. See? So you don't look handsome, don't look beautiful, you see. And in the case of the Buddha, he doesn't have any of this ornament. Even the hair is gone. But because he carries that beautiful smile on his face, he looks so beautiful, so handsome, you see. So that's the thing. You can learn so many things. And when you have many of these ornaments, you're also inviting thieves. And there are cases today where somebody's earring is being pulled off and the ear got torn, things like that, you see. And I know one friend a Tibetan friend, a young friend, he was wearing a golden ring. And then he was talking to somebody who was going somewhere. He actually came there to say goodbye. So then he was putting his hand like this, and then the window fell down and the bus moved, and his hand got stuck because of the ring. So all the skin and the flesh completely got pulled out, things like that. So there are so many cases like this, you see. There is a teaching which says, Kur. If you have something to carry, then the thief is also looking at you. Oh, this man is carrying something, Kuru mena ne kuma yungi, ta yungnai thobe yo marwa. Kuru mena yungda yungi yusare. Jisu Milareva, when he was meditating in his empty cave, of course there's no light, empty cave, dark cave. Somebody knowing that there's somebody, so he must have something. So a thief came to steal something in the darkness. So Milareva was meditating, and when he realized that somebody is trying to get something from his cave, he said, "What do you hope to get in the thick darkness when I don't get anything in the broad daylight?" You see, so generally speaking, the more you have, the more there will be thieves and so many things. In my own room, I find that whenever I have more like food and biscuits, then the ants and all kind of insects, then they start coming, you see. So if you get angry, you will have bad, due to anger, you will have bad complexion. Immediately your face becomes, not nice. By not consulting the learned, you remain stupid. So you should that's what we read already, you respect those with more knowledge, more qualities. Ask questions. Keep in touch with them, you will get the benefit. But if you don't consult them and if you pretend you know everything, you remain stupid. These effects arise in the human state. But before all this, one falls into the bad rebirths. So while you are human, while you are alive as a human being, you might encounter all these problems, and then when you die, you go into the negative state of existence. As for those called non-virtuous, their ripened results have been explained. As for those called virtuous, their results are the opposite. So if you do good things, this is the result. If you do bad things, that will be the result. In short, desire, hatred and ignorance and the actions they create are non-virtuous. So if you want to know what is non-virtuous, what is virtuous, non-virtuous are those that are propelled by the three poisons and the actions that comes after these three poisons. Non-desire, non-attachment and non-ignorance and the actions induced by them are virtuous practices. From non-virtuous comes all sufferings, and all bad rebirth as well. From virtues come all good rebirth and happiness through all our lives. That's not so difficult. So withdraw our body, speech and mind from whatever is non-virtuous and always turn them to virtues. Thus, Dharma is explained in these two aspects. That's not so difficult. Arwa? This one? Through concentration, immeasurable and formlessness, one enjoys. This Dharma releases us fully from the state of hell, hungry spirits and animals. It bestows happiness, glory and dominion in the state of human and God. Through concentration, immeasurable and formlessness, one enjoys the pleasure of Brahma and so forth. This as such is a brief summary of the Dharma of high rebirth and their effects. So therefore, if you cultivate all these needed causes for actualizing a positive human rebirth, and then through practices like concentration, the four immeasurables as we already explained, the four states of concentrations, and the four practices of formlessness, and through this way you will be able to enjoy higher pleasures like the state of a Brahma and so on. So this in short is how you would actualize. This in short is the Dharma, means this in short is the causes for actualizing a higher rebirth, and what kind of consequences, what kind of fruits you will enjoy if you actualize such a higher rebirth. Then from henceforth it speaks about having explained how to actualize higher rebirth, then it goes on to explain how to actualize definite goodness, nirvana and enlightenment. Next one. The factors for highest excellences appear as subtle and profound. The childish, bereft of learning, are thus frightened. So the victor says. So that means the factor, the causes for actualizing nirvana and enlightenment are really subtle. Very subtle means they are not easy to understand. They are very profound. Not necessarily vast, but very deep, very profound. So the childish, that means ordinary people who are ignorant, who are like innocent children, bereft of learning, who have no knowledge about the meaning of emptiness and so forth. So when for the first time they hear about this very profound, subtle teaching, like the teaching on emptiness, then they get frightened. That is what the Buddha said, as the victor says. So there is a story of somebody who was meditating on emptiness, and then suddenly when his mind started going into more of that emptiness, he got so frightened he had to touch himself, pull himself to make sure that he's there, he's alive. That's the meaning, that the childish get so much fear. Because ordinarily we are so much used with this physical thing, the concrete thing, the tangible thing. And all of us fear death. And what do you mean by fearing death? Fearing death means that you don't want to lose this body. You don't want to lose this body. I mean, it's so interesting. We are so stuck with this body. And this body itself, what is there in this body? Minam dunge lunye le, kieching deva hen le na, dunge kunji nu churwa kokola chuchi de kus. There is a beautiful verse from Arya Deva's 400 verses, where it says, in the case of human beings, their sufferings arise from their own body. Their peace and happiness arises from somewhere else. This being the case, how come that you pay so much respect to this body which is source of suffering? Minam dunge lunyele, kiechings. The sufferings that human beings experience arises from this body itself. The peace and happiness comes from somewhere else. This body, which is really the pot and the vessel of suffering, why do you pay so much respect to this body? The nature of this body is such that this is fragile, very sensitive, very fragile. If it is hot, oh, you can't bear. It's cold, oh, I'm feeling cold. If you don't wash few days, it's smelly, And then go more inside, more dirty things there, you see. So the problem, lot of problem, really. So why so much? Again, it's not saying that the body is useless. I'm not saying that. Again, Shantideva, in the beginning of his Bodhicharyavatara, where he says, that this impure, filthy body that you have right now, if you know how to transform it, how to change it, you can transform it into the body of a Buddha, which is priceless, which is valueless. And the only way to transmute and change that ordinary impure body into the body of the Buddha is that you cultivate bodhicitta. You cultivate these inner qualities, then your body becomes very precious. But if you look at the nature of the body itself, without these inner qualities, then body itself is really like impure, unclean, combination of 36 filthy substances and things like that, you see. So therefore, it is not proper to develop too much grasping. Instead, it's important to realize the lack of inherent existence, independent nature of this body and the I which is designated on this body. Both in the case of the body and also in the case of the mind and also in the case of the I. None of these things, and in fact, there is no phenomena which has inherent independent existence. So we'll be reading many, many verses from henceforth. It's talking only about this thing. So I'll spend a little more time on this right now. Okay? So what the Buddha is saying is, okay, for example, this is a book. Is this a book? Yes. So right now I will say I'm reading this book. I will not say I'm reading this cat. I'm reading this dog. If I say, okay, I'll read this dog, you will all laugh at me now. Geshe Lhakdor is gone insane. Because somebody give the designation, this is book, and we all agreed. No problem. Yes, I will call book. So we agreed. So we feel very comfortable. But if you look carefully, it's just a designation. In the beginning, instead of calling this a book, if we call this a dog or a mic, today we very comfortable, we will be saying, let us read the dog. So it's a designation, mere designation. That is to say that there is nothing that has independent, inherent existence from its own side. It's all designation. You give a name, people agree to it, and then say, okay. So that we don't get confused. We are able to separate things, We need the name. But to see that object, which is the basis of name and designation, as having permanent existence, inherent existence, independent existence, that is the source of all problems. And in fact, in Buddhism, when we talk about ignorance as the root cause of all problems, we are talking about that. Ignorance means, when we say ignorance is the root of samsara, when we say ignorance is the root of samsara, we are not talking about mere lack of knowledge. Mere lack of knowledge is also there, but we are primarily talking about misconception of reality. Ignorance primarily means there is inborn ignorance, but primarily means misconception of reality. Now, misconception of reality is very dangerous. Mere lack of knowledge is not good, but it's okay. Just like small kid, who don't have knowledge, no misconception. So then we can explain, they'll easily understand. Yes, I'll understand. This is not A, this is B. Okay, this is B. They'll understand it. They will not try to, argue against you. debate against you. But if it is misconception of the reality, then they will not listen to what you say. They will also come up with some false reasoning. They will try to defend it. So it's very dangerous. Very dangerous. Many of the fighting in the name of religion that is happening today is based on such misconception of reality. So what is the misconception? The misconception is that in reality there is nothing that is inherent independent existence. But the misconception is you think that this one has independent existence. This has inherent existence. Now, right now, if I ask you, do you exist independently? Of course, you will say, no, Geshe Lhakdor, no, I exist dependently. Right now, you are thinking, you see. But in our regular, ordinary life, with an unquestioning mind, that's not how we think. Especially when you fancy something, like something, you know. Oh, wow, this is so good. For example, if you have been for a long time looking for a BMW car, then as and when you see that BMW car, you will say, wow, so good. I should have one. It's inherently existing from its own side, independently existing from its own side. That's what we do all the time. So let us say you don't have enough money right now, but you like to buy. So what you will do is, for several months until you are able to collect money, you will do window shopping, you know. Go and think and then dream about it, BMW car, you know, get the dream of riding and moving around in the BMW car. The grasping is so strong. And then finally you have enough money and then buy the car and have it in your courtyard, then looks even better, see? Because now it is in touch with your self-grasping. So nice, you know. Then for the first few days you will not even allow other people to touch it. And there's somebody has made a very interesting story about it, and I repeat this, it's very useful. There's a story of somebody who has bought such a car, and he was very excited as everybody. And he had a small daughter. So this innocent daughter goes to their car and scribbles something, draws something. The father, because the daughter is scribbling something on the brand new car, he got so angry, he said, what are you doing? He pushed her aside. And unluckily this girl fell down and she died. I mean, this is a story, very moving story. It may not necessarily be true, but it can happen like this. So she dies. And then the father, of course, was so sad. Then we looked and see what she has written there. She has written, Papa, I love you. I mean, this is so moving. You know, I read this book and it stayed in my mind. You know, it can happen like this. When you have so much craving and grasping to things, it will happen like this. So when you fancy something, you like something, in order to get that, how much effort we make, unthinkable, you know. A boy likes a girl and chases her, and not being able to get her, commit suicide. You go to that extent, you see. I mean, that's a story, you know, very familiar to all of you, you know. So grasping, because we see that person, that object as 100% nice, 100% beautiful. Wow, you get mesmerized, you know. But if you calm down and think carefully, if you think carefully, maybe I'm speaking too close. Hello. So that's the important point that we need to understand. Why, if we develop grasping and craving by seeing things as having inherent independent existence, how much trouble we can have. Conversely, if you see something nice, okay, nice, but still it's subject to death, destruction. Even this BMW car looking so nice, but it's assemblage of pieces of iron or whatever, you know, and then nicely painted, you see. So at least if you have that understanding that it is fragile, one day it will go, you know, then make a connection. The connection will be much, much more realistic. You don't expect too much from those things, you see. When something happens to this person, to that person, this person reacts in a different way, you will not be shocked because you are mentally prepared that this same person, this same object has so many aspects. I mean, even in the case of one person, the one single person has so many expressions, so many aspects, so many emotions. So you cannot really say that this person is 100% good or 100% bad, things like that. So with that kind of understanding, you will be able to develop a holistic, realistic attitude, and you will not fall into any of the extremes. Okay? So that's the purpose. When we don't have that understanding, then when you don't like somebody, oh, my enemy, 100% negative. Oh, Chinese leaders, 100% negative. They are demons, they are ghosts. I can't talk to them. The only thing is use gun kind of attitude. We develop that kind of attitude. Horrible, But are you sure they are 100% bad? They have their friends, relatives who are saying they are 100% good. You see? So similarly to your friends and relatives, you say 100% nice, but there are many others who are saying that, oh, your friend is not good, your brother is not good, sister is not good, things like that. So it's a relative, you see. So once you understand that, then you are able to understand that there is no point to develop too much obsession to some and rejection or disliking to others. So ignorance means misconception of the reality, seeing things as having inherent independent existence. Are you clear about this a little bit? The very famous teaching on emptiness is this one, which I have explained already. Many people, they say, oh, emptiness is so difficult. Then the teachers say also very difficult. The text also says it's subtle and profound, Yes, in order to actually internalize it is really difficult. But to get some idea is not so difficult. It's basically saying everything is interdependent and therefore there's nothing that has independent existence. Things exist. Everything. Things exist. If things exist, there are only two ways of existing. One is dependent existence, another is independent existence. Dependent existence, independent existence, they are mutually exclusive. They cannot be third possibility. Either it should be independent existence or dependent existence. So now things we see are dependent on causes and conditions, names and designations. Therefore they have a dependent existence. So that clearly proves that there is nothing that has independent existence. Clear? Dependent existence. Now if you understand this meaning of dependent existence, then you will be able to understand many, many things. Network of interconnected reality. That you are dependent on the environment, you are dependent on the food you eat, you are dependent on the people with whom you work, so many things. And it is nothing but natural that to whom you are dependent, you are related, you need to take care of them. The environment on which you are dependent, your health and well-being is dependent on the environment, therefore you must take care of environment. You are dependent on other people, therefore you must take care of them. The hand takes care of the leg because the hand knows that the leg is important for the hand to carry around. The hand itself cannot move, cannot walk. So the leg carries the hand. The hand also goes down to help if the leg is hurt. So they are mutually dependent, so they help each other. So it's something like that. So from here you can clearly see how this concept of emptiness. So emptiness means, okay, now you remember this. Emptiness means emptiness is not equal to nothingness, number one. Emptiness means empty of independent existence. As I already explained, things do not exist independently. So therefore, emptiness means empty of independent existence. Emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Emptiness is like the mathematical figure 0. 0 looks like it has no meaning, but 0 in mathematical calculation has huge value. Without 0 you can't have 10, you can't have 100, you can't have 1,000. Okay? It's a big meaning. So both these two ideas of the concept of 0 in mathematical calculation and concept of emptiness in philosophical understanding, both of these two great ideas are developed in India. I think there are a lot of similarities there. Just as from 0 you can develop so many other numbers. So similarly, once you are able to understand this meaning of emptiness, then you will be able to see that many things can happen now. Therefore, Nagarjuna in one of his texts, he says, to whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible. To whom emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. To whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible, because to whom emptiness is possible, then dependent origination is possible. If we are able to talk about dependent origination, then by mutual dependence things can be created. Things can grow. By depending on causes and conditions, things can grow. By depending on others, you can get their help. If everything has independent existence, then nothing can be done. It is the way it is, Nothing can be done. So thank God that things do not have independent existence, they have dependent existence. So by depending on each other, you can do many things. So that is the idea. Okay? One question, maybe. If you have one or two questions, quickly, I will answer quickly, then we stop. No questions? Okay, then. Good night. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Geshe, can you give me one example of independent existence?
Huh?
Independent existence.
There's no independent existence.
Is there any related to independent existence to dependent existence?
No, as I said, they are mutually exclusive. They cannot stay together. So things exist dependently, therefore there's no room for independent existence. So independent existence is not there. There's nothing, no example of any phenomena that has independent existence. Even if you come up with the example of a permanent phenomena, you might come up with this permanent phenomena thinking that since this is not dependent on causes and conditions, therefore it must be independently existing. But even in the case of the permanent phenomena, like emptiness, emptiness is a permanent phenomena. Even in the case of emptiness, it is dependent because it has the name emptiness. And this name emptiness is designated by some human mind. So without designation, without depending on causes and conditions, nothing can come out. We cannot think about anything. So in that sense. So either it is dependent on causes and conditions, or it is dependent on the mind that gives the designation, the name which is being given to it, or your whole body is dependent on the parts, and the parts of the body are dependent on the whole body. So that way it is dependent. There is nothing that has independent existence. Now don't ask the question saying that if there is no independent existence, then how can we get our independence? So from this parlance, genuine independence is not possible. You will be dependent on somebody. Okay, good night. Thank you.